Former President Donald Trump will give his first speech since leaving office this weekend at the Conservative Political Action Conference, and Republicans are still rallying around him as the future and the leader of the GOP. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. After 5 years of doing everything possible to hide them, it was reported today that Donald Trump was finally forced to turn over his tax records to the Manhattan District Attorney this week after the Supreme Court denied his last-ditch attempt to keep them concealed. And look, I'm no prosecutor, but it can't be that hard to find a crime in the tax records of a guy who claims to be a billionaire yet paid only $750 in federal income taxes when he was president. This wasn't way back in the 80s when he was just a New York real estate developer and I'm guessing aspiring birthday magician. Mom, that guy made my presents disappear. This was 2017 when he was the most powerful and most famous person in the world. It was so brazen, I'm shocked he didn't live stream it. Sup, fam? Welcome to my Twitch stream. Today we'll be committing tax fraud, and make sure to subscribe because next week we'll be playing the new online Ocean Master. And yes, there are plenty of technically legal ways that the wealthy and corporations avoid taxes, which is a scandal in itself, but something tells me Trump doesn't just limit himself to the legal stuff. I'm guessing he commits crimes the way the rest of us order apps for the tables. Should we just get one of everything? So a criminal investigation in Manhattan is intensifying, not to mention an investigation in Georgia of his attempt to steal the election there. Plus there are 30 other investigations last I checked. Oh, and also there was that whole insurrection thing, and yet he's still scheduled to give his first post-presidency speech to the Conservative Political Action Conference on Sunday, a move that has most Republicans thrilled, but also caused a few awkward moments in the party, as evidenced by the public split yesterday between House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy and Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who voted to impeach Trump.
Your view on the leadership, especially Congresswoman Cheney, do you believe President Trump should be speaking, or former President Trump should be speaking at CPAC this weekend?
Yes, he should.
Congresswoman Cheney?
That's up to CPAC. I've been clear my views about President Trump and the extent to which following January 6th, I don't believe that he should be playing a role in the future of the party or the country.
On that high note?
Very funny. The GOP responds to divisions over the future of their party like an uncle who farts at Thanksgiving dinner. Oh, and with that, I will retire to the family room. It was rare to see that kind of disunity on public display because during his presidency, Trump commanded near universal loyalty within the Republican Party, despite his abysmal record of failure on both policy and politics. Remember, he never cracked 50% approval once. He was impeached twice. He lost the popular vote twice. He lost the House by the highest margin since Watergate and lost the Senate in January when Democrats won 2 Senate seats in what was once... What about more songs where I sing? Also a no autograph policy. Peace and love. Why on earth would you want to stick with a guy who was basically single-handedly responsible for your political annihilation? It reminds me of my weekly bowling team. We would all hit at least 200 every week except for Dale, who would always chuck the ball across 2 lanes because he had gravy all over his hands from the disco fries. And every week I tell my teammates, let's cut Dale loose. And they'd say, we can't, because he bankrolls the team with the $1 million settlement he won from the local Dairy Queen when he spilled a blizzard in his lap and his dog got frostbite. Anyway, the point is, Republicans stuck by no matter how bad he was for the party because they agreed with him. They were engaged in the same project and wanted the same things. With a few exceptions, they were all Trump. I mean, Lindsey Graham literally wore the same clothes when they went golfing, like a Chihuahua whose owner makes them wear matching outfits. This looks like one of those pictures of Manute Bol and Muggsy Bogues when they both played for the Bullets. It was called the Bullets before they changed it to the Wizards. Took an armed insurrection stoked by the president and fueled by insane lies about election fraud to finally put some distance between a few Republicans and Trump. Even Graham, as you might recall, briefly suggested that he might finally be ready to separate himself from Trump.
Trump and I, we've had a hell of a journey. I hate it being this way. Oh my God, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see. All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough.
I believe he was reciting a monologue from the Tennessee Williams play, A Streetcar Named Deliar. You can stay for the rest of the closer look, but it's all downhill from there. What's that? You want me to do a scene from Streetcar Named Deliar? I couldn't. Okay, we've had a long journey, Trump and I, from the salt marshes of Charlton to the riverboats of Mississippi to the Sparkleberry Swamp. Meemaw says he's just a figment of my imagination, but to me it was real. As real as a glass of peach tea on a warm Chattanooga night. God, I hate it down this way, but sometimes life comes up and bites you. Like an Appalachian salamander on a meth bender. End a scene. Well, it won't surprise you to learn that Graham almost immediately did a 180. He probably thought that by calling out Trump's bad behavior one time, he'd get to co-host a podcast with Obama and Springsteen. Fellas, I'm looking at my Spotify, and I cannot believe I am finding out like this. Well, count me out. You can't be out when you were never in. Yeah, Linz. Oof. I tried to get two rock and rollers, and I nailed the Ringo. That's it. You always said, don't only one rock and roller a show. Ah, Linz. That was a little better. You're out, Linz. Graham's been all over cable news proclaiming Trump the face of the Republican Party even after the insurrection and the massing and dining with Trump. He has spoken to the former president nearly daily since January 6th, more frequently than any of his Republican colleagues in the Senate. They talk almost daily? I don't even speak to my own family on a daily basis. I tried to Zoom with my dad last week, but he wouldn't stop complaining about how much he hates the sea captain. Still, let it go, Dad. He hasn't been on the show for months. Last I heard, his crew threw him overboard for hoarding limes.
It was Margarita Monday.
Anything else, Dad?
Sandberg texted and wanted me to tell you that Frisbee sucks.
Dude, she's here today.
My bad.
I told you to leave after the streetcar named a liar joke, so if you're still here, that's on you. Quiet, Frisbee. Don't worry, she's not here. We pre-taped that. Anyway, the point is, even after a violent insurrection to overthrow the government, the GOP has essentially pledged its unwavering loyalty to Trump. And now he's set to make his first political speech since leaving office this week at CPAC, not to be confused with CPAP, which is what Melania wears at night so Trump won't try to kiss her. Yeah, it's really sad. It has something to do with her airways. It's a medical condition. What's it called, Mel? Mel? What's your sleep thing called? I want to say sleep Applejack, but that's definitely wrong. Sleep... Mel? Is it sleep Applebee's? She's sleeping bad in the neighborhood. Did you hear that, Mel? I did a spin on the Applebee's slip. She probably can't hear me over the machine. And in advance of the speech, Graham has been all over cable news, talking up Trump as the leader and the future of the party.
Trump's going to give a speech Sunday that's going to be very policy-centric. Every Republican should rally around it. I think it will help us with independence. And I've never felt better about President Trump's leading the party than I do right now.
First of all, you really expect us to believe his speech is going to be policy-centric? His speeches weren't even policy-centric when he was president. I bet I can predict what it'll be. He'll spend a half an hour whining about getting canceled, zing Cheney a few times. At some point, he'll say a curse word, and the crowd will go nuts like a bunch of fifth graders when the music teacher says the word pianist too fast, and then he'll mention the squad, and everybody will boo. The whole thing is basically Rocky Horror Picture Show for wingnuts. By the way, at the same time that he's openly cheerleading a former president who tried to overturn an election and cited a violent insurrection and routinely called for his political enemies to be jailed, Graham is also calling President Biden's COVID relief package divisive, despite the fact that it is overwhelmingly popular in polls. Just yesterday, a poll found that 76% of voters, including 60% of Republicans, support the bill. You know how rare that kind of consensus is? You can't even get 76% of voters to agree to vote. And yet Graham had this to say about it.
All I can say is this $1.9 trillion being jammed in a partisan fashion, doubling the minimum wage and a bunch of other stuff, is the furthest thing from unity I've seen.
Really? It's the furthest thing from unity you've seen? Was your vision obstructed from the Trump and total loyalty to Trump as he prepares to reemerge for his first post-presidency speech? And not only that, Trump's lies about the election have essentially become canon on the right. Over the weekend, House GOP whip Steve Scalise refused to say that the election wasn't stolen. And earlier this week, the chairman of CPAC, Matt Schlapp of the law firm Schlemiel, Schlemazel, and Schlapp, essentially doubled down on the lie.
It's still very important that we go back to the idea of legal voting, and people should be legally registered to vote in order to vote. When voter fraud occurs, no matter who commits it should be fully prosecuted. And
you have to have proof that it would have changed an outcome.
We have it.
You don't have
it.
Matt, why do you ignore
Chris,
that dozens of lawsuits failed on this?
Why ignore it? You're right. They did fail, but guess what? You know this, you're a good lawyer. Just because you fail in court doesn't mean you don't have a good case. It means you lost in court.
Believe it or not, it can be both. You can lose in court and have a bad case, especially if you lose 60 times and your lawyer starts leaking from the head like he mixed up the shampoo and the motor oil. Crap! No wonder my car wouldn't start. Oh, Rudy, this is why your cousin left you. And yet, as crazy as these people are, there's no doubt that they are the core constituency of the modern Republican Party, a party that has become totally unmoored from reality, that relishes performative cruelty and traffics in racism, cultural grievances and paranoia. Even the few non-psychotic Republicans left are willing to admit this. Utah Senator Mitt Romney said this week that if Trump runs in 2024, he'll probably win the nomination.
Will President Trump continue to play a role in my party? I'm sure he will. He has by far the largest voice and a big impact in my party. I don't know if he'll run in 2024 or not, but if he does, I'm pretty sure he will win the nomination.
You think he would win the nomination?
Oh, I think he'd win the nomination if he runs. The polls show that among the names being floated as potential contenders in 2024, if you put President Trump in there among Republicans, he wins in a landslide. And I would probably be getting behind somebody who I thought more represented the tiny wing of the Republican Party that I represent.
So leave the party. The distance between you and Joe Biden is nothing compared to the gulf between you and Donald Trump. You don't have to go down with a ship like that old couple that stayed in bed in Titanic. But he's right on both counts. Trump would probably win the nomination, and the wing of the party that Romney represents is tiny. There aren't many Romney stands left in the GOP. Even when he was the nominee in 2012, Republican voters backed him with all the enthusiasm of a teen who asked their parents for BTS tickets and got Kenny G instead. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you'd love it, since, you play the saxophone and marching band. I mean, look how close you are to the stage. No good deed, I guess. This is the modern GOP, a party fully detached from reality and from the mainstream of American politics. They're in lockstep behind an ex-president who fomented a violent insurrection and who oversaw a reign of misery and mass death. But they're calling a COVID relief bill that has 76% support from voters divisive. If you think that's divisive, can you imagine what he thinks about the return of the sea captain?
Oh my God, I hate it.
This has been a closer look. God's Living Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask. We love you.